Dr. David, karibu. How should I say Council David?
Thank you, Lillian. My name is David Sigiano. I'll be very straightforward like Simon. I work for the East Africa Law Society. We are based here in Tanzania. Our work is centered around lawyers. That means we coordinate over 43,000 advocates across the East African community. 43,000 because now we have Ethiopia as a member of the East Africa Law Society. So we have about 8 national bar associations that are members of the East Africa Law Society. That includes Tanganyika Law Society, Zanzibar Law Society, Law Society of Kenya, Uganda Law Society, Burundi Bar Association, Rwanda Bar Association, South Sudan Bar, and now Ethiopia Federal Advocates Association. We have membership from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where we have the Haut Katanga Bar. This is a bar in Lubumbashi to the east. We are yet to get the national bar into our membership. Our key role is regional integration. We do a lot of regional integration work that is supporting the community in terms of policy, processes, legal processes, and in terms of making sure the treaty is respected and implemented properly. So that is a very core part of our work. We also generally do a lot of human rights work and rule of law work. You might have seen a lot of drama recently around activists traveling to Tanzania and potentially us being mentioned as the people who invited them. So we do a lot of human rights work, civil society work generally, and promotion of the rule of law across the East African community, across the region. Our recent achievement is we developed a rule of law index. It's yet to be shared out in public, but it's a ready document that we're going to release soon to show where each ESE partner state is in terms of rule of law work. I think I have said too much. I will allow the others to speak about themselves, and then we can go into this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cyril Ako. I work for GIZ as the Regional Economic Policy Advisor, mainly dealing with the CSO engagement in the region. And my key role was actually to make sure that session is going on well and there is logistical support to make sure it works. And Lillian surprised me that please come forward. So before I proceed, I would like also to request you to sign participation forms which are around, and I have no one moving them around. So if you have a form, just sign and give it to the next person, then I will collect it at the end of the session. This is my very humble request. Don't stay with it because no one is there moving it for me. And yes, I'm looking forward to participate in this discussion as an East African, as Tanzanian, and yeah, it's exciting. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My good name is Suleiman Mujuni Baitani. Unfortunately, I was not on the panel, but my colleague, Advocate Onesmo Orengurumwa, was supposed to be on the panel. But based that I've been working with AAXOF, but also with ELS in number of programs and activities that are touching the integration, he requested me to represent him today. But our work as Tanzania Human Rights Defenders Coalition, it's a membership organization, a human rights organization. We have over 300 organizations, civil society working in Tanzanian mainland and Zanzibar. And also I work with AAXOF in the secretariat. So I'm wearing 2 hats, as how my CEO, Ms. Lillian, mentioned. I'm wearing 2 hats. So at the AAXOF, we work with our partner states. We have chapters in all the 8 East Africa partner states. And we have been vibrant. I'm very worried if you still don't know about AAXOF. that also gives me energy as part of the secretariat to do my homework. So I hope that the session will be more interesting today. We might get more of the insights and recommendation on how we can strengthen these kinds of networks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman, and thank you for the introductions. And just from where Suleiman has stopped, this is the part I usually like the most. So how many of us know about the East African community? By show of hands. Ah, wow. You see? They know. How many of you know about the EACSOF? The East Africa Civil Society Organizations Forum? At least. Yes. It seems that we've been doing some good work, Suleiman. So far, it's at least, it's giving, inatia moyo, let me use that word. You're giving me hope that it's actually possible. So thank you for the introductions, and I'm again going to direct a number of questions to the panelists, and then I will also give you an opportunity to raise your questions as you interact with the panelists. So again, as I said, I welcome you to pay attention. This is more of a consultation. It's more of a, I would say, a discussion. We're not here to do presentations. That is why I closed the screen, because I don't want to just come here and show you what we do or what we have done, but I also want to hear from you, because the EAC is a citizen-oriented rec. It's not for anyone. It doesn't belong to anyone. It's basically you're speaking about how you view the East African community. So I more want to hear from you and your thoughts and what you think can be done better. So to start with, Mr. Simon. Mine is very simple to you, and just to inform the members that we have a desk office that is for civil society in EAC, the Social Affairs Directorate. For those of you who were privileged to be in the CSO last week, we had a representative. Unfortunately, this year we haven't had them all been able to participate in this panel. But then again, we are glad to have our able supporters from the East African community to also be present. So Mr. Simon comes more from the private sector, I believe, but I'm sure he can share with us some of the insights of, and my question is going to be very general from the department you come from, knowing that you're an expert and you also work in tourism. And right now in Tanzania, our main, I would say one of our main agendas as a country is to, boost the tourism industry in Tanzania. So basically, maybe what can you tell the civil society here present today? How best can they tap into the mechanisms? Or first, let me start with a general question. In your department, do you work with civil society? You can tell us what was the experience, if you have any. If you don't, maybe what can we do better to ensure that we also tap into the economic aspects of the East African community? Karibu.
Okay, thank you, Lillian. Number one, I can say I'm happy to see that when you asked how many people are aware about EAC, I think about 95% of the people in the room raised their hand. And I'll be happier to see if the same question is asked in my village. How many people know about EAC? And I know that's going to be like less than 10%. So that means there is a huge gap about awareness of EAC. And that's one area that we are working with the civil society in terms of creating awareness about the things that we do. For EAC, I know all of us are aware. Now we are 8 partner states. 2 of them are Democratic Republic of Congo and Federal Republic of Somalia joined recently. So it means there is a huge gap in us in creating awareness. And one thing I would like to underline is that, as you said, EAC is citizen-centered, people-centered. So without awareness of EAC by the citizens of East Africa, I think we are not be fulfilling our mandate. And I can give an experience that we had recently, especially when it comes to climate change. Currently, we are reviewing the climate change policy. It was done in 2011. A lot of things have happened. For instance, coming in over the Paris Agreement, which has changed the landscape in terms of climate change. And we are directed by the Central Council on Environment and Natural Resources that we need to review that policy. We also have a strategy, which is a tool to implement the strategy, which elapsed in 2016. We have a master plan. All of these have to be reviewed. And as recent as last month, we had what we call regional consultative meeting, whereby we invite experts from the partner states to come and speak to the review that we need to do. And through the support of civil society organization, and also mobilized by ActionAid, we had representative of civil society organizations who brought in also communities, local communities. We also had youth in the room who are speaking into the policy formulation process. So I can say that's a success for us, whereby when we're engaging, we have to engage civil society organizations, we have to engage even local communities, youth, and also all marginalized sections. Allow me to mention another experience that we are having. We also recently reviewed what we call Regional Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan to align it to the Global Biodiversity Framework. It was a directive again from the ministers that we need to align that to GBF. We also have to align it to the continental strategy. And if you look at the provisions of the GBF, it's inclusiveness, including all members or sections of the society. And they have an approach they are calling whole of government, whole of society approach. And I really appreciate whereby we are involving, even civil societies to not only develop the policy and legal frameworks, but also in terms of implementation. We had an exchange with SADC, supported by FAO. Last week, Barwan, we had a dialogue between EAC and SADC. And looking at the room, we found civil society organizations were well represented in that room. But I believe there are gaps we need to work on, strengthening the coordination, strengthening involvement in policy formulation, as well as implementation, so that we are made accountable for what we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's some very good news I'm hearing today. And I'm glad that you also agree that we need to do more to improve some of these initiatives. Without wrapping up what you have said, I'll just go to the next speaker. Mr. David, I know you have a lot on your chest, but please bear with us as we are still learning about the East African community, and the purpose for having this national consultation is basically to raise more awareness, as we have addressed that, but also to get the citizens, and in this particular context, the Tanzanian CSOs, to get a glimpse and learn of what is happening. I believe what Mr. Simon has just stated, I have to also be honest, being even the coordinator of CSOs, I don't know about the processes that are happening. I know there are a lot of reviews of policies in the EAC right now happening, but I've not been a part of any in regards to climate change and what you've just mentioned. So clearly we are seeing the gap. And I'm also learning that there's much that we also need to catch up with in regards to civil society engagement and participation. So Mr. David, just in a general, I would say general context, I just wanted to ask you, maybe you can help the CSOs present here to understand the mechanisms that are there to support their CSOs engagement in the EAC generally, but also I've had a number of questions most of the times asking us, I know you have a court, so what does the court help us? How can we access the court? I think you're best suited to actually address that. Just help them understand how the legal frameworks in the EAC work and how they can engage whenever they need to engage these legal frameworks. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Lillian. I think let me start from where Simon ended and say, I think 95% is not good enough in terms of knowledge of the community. It should essentially be 100% at any point, at any time, because every ESC citizen or everyone resident in the community should know there is a community. So it should always be 100% at all times. Let me address the legal framework that exists for engagement between CSOs, and that is citizens, and the community. And we have always addressed this question. When our new community was created or recreated in 2000, I'm giving this as a historical background, and then I'll give the structure. It was recreated to involve people. In fact, if you look at the overarching theme of the community, is people-centered. I'm not going to mention market-driven, but people-centered. That means our community is for the people. That is the main goal of this community. So people involve everything, government, CSOs, everyone within the community. So when the community was redone in 1999-2000, that was the overarching goal. And the main reason why that was the goal was because the community that collapsed in 77 had, in one way or the other, and I say this in quotes, forgotten the people. It was operating at a level where the people were not feeling sufficiently involved within community processes. So people are feeling disenfranchised. You don't feel like you are a part of this community that you call yours. So when the drafters of the new treaty redid it, their main goal was to make the person the center of the community, so that what you say is what the community does. That is not always the case, though, as we have witnessed, and I'm going to probably share this as the day goes. So how do we engage with the ESC? First, there is something that we have created within the treaty, or there are provisions that were put within the treaty to allow citizens directly engage with the community. If you look at article, I think from 126, 127, 128, up to 129 of the treaty, it's all about the citizens and how they can be involved within the running of the community. And in fact, I think 127 says the community should create an environment that allows for the effective operation of CSOs and other entities that champion citizen interests. I am sort of quoting that or cross-referencing that. You can check that provision. So all those articles were put there to make sure that the citizen is a part of the community. And it did not stop there. Later, something was created that we call the Consultative Dialogue Framework, or the CDF. The CDF is a framework that allows for regular, the word is regular, consultations between the ESC, partner states, and the citizens. And each of these organs or entities have their own leadership. So within the Consultative Dialogue Framework, there are structures that were created to allow for consultations or engagements between the ESC Secretariat, partner states, and the people. So the first structure and the lowest one, there has been created a National Dialogue Committee or National Dialogue Committees. And these ones are led by the ministries in charge of ESC affairs. In fact, if you look at your ministerial system, there's always a ministry or a sub-department in a ministry for some partner states within foreign affairs that deals with ESC affairs. So that ministry is supposed to coordinate national consultations. In fact, before something like the regional biodiversity strategy gets to a level where it's discussed at ESC, I'm mentioning this because Simon mentioned it specifically, it should have been discussed at the National Dialogue Committees. I want to know if any of you in this room was invited to a National Dialogue Committee meeting to discuss this strategy, especially those that deal with biodiversity, climate change issues. That is where it's supposed to have started. You're supposed to have gotten your input at that level before it comes to ESC. So there's the national committees, dialogue committees that are supposed to do this. Then once they get feedbacks or reports, these reports are supposed to be presented to the sectoral councils. Sectoral councils deal with different sectors. So for instance, environment, there's a sector, there will be a sector on tourism, there will be a sector on mining, there will be a sector on almost everything. So once the national dialogues have taken place, the presentations are supposed to be made at the sectoral council. But before that is done, there is something we call regional dialogue committees. So what are regional dialogue committees? The regional dialogue committees coordinate what has been done at the national level. So obviously you had a report at the national level. This is presented and sort of put together, because we'll have a national dialogue in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, in Burundi, in DRC, in Somalia, South Sudan. All of them have their reports. So the regional dialogue committee then looks at these reports and prepares something comprehensive that is then presented to the sectoral council. The sectoral council will take the recommendations of the reports, and then this will be escalated to the Council of Ministers. So I believe we can see how the structure builds up. The Council of Ministers will consider this and adopt what they consider important and present it to the heads of state summit. So this is the final level where then directives will be given that implement 1, 2, 3, 4. Then once that is implemented, it will be a community, say, action. So you can see everything has to start from the grassroots, from the National Dialogue Committee down there. And the National Dialogue Committee will involve CSOs, government officials, everyone from the grassroots. And this is how CSOs will then come in. So you have to input from that very low level. Something additional that I should not mention saying is every year, the Secretary General of the EAC is mandated to host the Secretary General's Forum. So the Secretary General's Forum is an avenue for citizens to say, this is what we want to see done in our community. And normally the Regional Dialogue Committee organizes, does the themes in consultation with National Dialogue Committees and says, this time let's focus on these particular areas. Let's focus on cross-border trade. Let's focus on rule of law. Let's focus on civic space. Let's focus on that and that. They organize the themes, and the Secretary General then brings the leadership and the CSOs and citizens in one room like this one, and they discuss important issues affecting citizens. And recommendations are taken. And then these recommendations are implemented. Actually, right now, I chair the RDC, and we are reviewing the recommendations that were done in Nairobi last November, December. Some of them have been adopted by the Council of Ministers, but some have not. So we are tracking those recommendations, and we will make sure that all of them, or at least a good number of them, are implemented. So this is how CSOs, in one way or the other, contribute. In fact, the SDGs Forum is more a regional CSO forum, because mostly it's us, or CSOs, who are always there saying, this has not been done, this has been done, you need to do better here. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Just before you put down the mic, David, you haven't told us about the access to the court, the East African Court of Justice, which is your area of practice.
Oh my goodness, this is a good one. Well, the EAC has various organs, and these organs are each tasked with different roles and functions. For instance, the summit has its own functions. The East African Legislative Assembly has its own functions. The East African Court of Justice has its own functions. The EAC Secretariat has its own functions. Essentially, all the organs are there to handle specific details. At least three main ones are there: the Secretariat, the IALA, the Assembly, and the Court of Justice. So these are like the three arms of government. The way you have the judiciary, the executive, and parliament. So the EAC also operates in that way. So one of those key organs is the East African Court of Justice. And this court exists to help citizens whenever they feel that justice at the national level has not been achieved or has not been achieved properly, or whenever they feel that the treaty, and this is the main one, has been infringed in one way or the other. So any citizen of the EAC can access the court. In fact, this is one of the best regional courts because you do not have, this is key, to exhaust local remedies. So you can wake up and say the treaty has been infringed in this way, and I'm going to go to the East African Court of Justice. Probably I could give an example of a case that will show what the role of CSOs is. At some point, the government of Tanzania wanted to build a road from Arusha here through the Serengeti to the north. I believe Mara, potentially Musoma, Sirari, and maybe Mwanza, linking those two cities. So one CSO came to the court and challenged that proposal to build that road. And the idea was this road will affect wildlife movement in the Serengeti, and it will affect biodiversity and other issues around climate in the Ngorongoro and Serengeti. Of course, it was going to go through there. And so the court considered this application and issued an injunction. In fact, the wording there is a permanent injunction. Permanent means you can never resuscitate it. You can never wake it up. It's completely done. So it issued a permanent injunction against the government of Tanzania from building that road. So that road has never been built. So I'm saying this as a live example of a CSO presenting a case at the regional court and the regional court taking action. So the court is there to serve citizens. You can go there anytime as long as you feel there's infringement of the treaty. And this includes if you feel like a hearing at the national level has not accorded you justice or the process has not been proper. A good example is there's a Kenyan politician who brought a case. They had gone to national level courts in Kenya, they had failed, and they brought a case to East African Court of Justice, and they were granted, I think, about $20,000 or so in damages for miscarriage of justice at the national level. They believed by Kenya not affording them justice, the treaty was breached. So this is a very good avenue whenever you feel that your matter cannot be properly handled at the national level, or whenever you feel like, well, let me get an alternative avenue to get justice. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, David. Or should I call you Mr. Chair? I think I forgot that part. But Sante for that clear elaboration. Questions are going to come back later, and I believe even the members have more questions. I will nitakuruka kidogo, Mr. Cyril. I want to go to the CSOs themselves. So, Mr. Suleiman, I clearly invited you here knowing all the hats that you wear, and one being also a very good coordinator of the grassroots civil society organizations in Tanzania. So I know this might not be much of the exhausted discussions because we only have a few representatives from the different areas, but even from the knowledge that you've grasped, what exactly do you think, what's your take on in terms of Tanzanian civil societies engaging in the EAC so far? How do you, are we actively, okay, let me rephrase that. Are they actively engaging with the East African community? And if not, what do you think can or should be done better to have Tanzanian civil society organizations engaging in the East African community? Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. It's a quite good question. Truth to be said, we are not that active as CSOs in Tanzania. One might be on the awareness of the integration, but also understanding where do we fit. But also I would say that they are giant organizations. Most of the CSOs platform never like to use this word, but they are giant organizations that have been working not only in the EAC bloc, but also in the SADC, but still they have not come down to the grassroots organization and share the opportunities that are there within the East Africa community or the SADC. So I would say that the role that we have as the platforms, the coalitions, the networks, we need to also have that space of sharing awareness, but also making our fellow grassroots CSOs understand the treaty. Because Mr. David mentioned, but all what Mr. David mentioned are just cemented on the Article 5, where there is the objective of the community. And when you read the Article 5, subsection 3, or sub-article 3G, it shows that it's a people-centered community. That shows that we, the CSOs, we work with the citizen. We are the voice of the citizen. But we do not know that opportunity that we have. But also, there are a lot of advantages that we do not share. For example, there are issues of regional policy influences. You know, there are a lot of laws and regional frameworks that might benefit us at a national level, but we do not get time to involve in those spaces. But also, it's about building solidarity. And we have seen that happening but in one end, and it did not go on well. I don't want to say about that because we do understand what is happening now. But it builds solidarity. When we see that one country is facing challenges in a particular area, we are the citizens of the East Africa. Even our passports that we have, the cover page, does not only have our national flag or our national map. It has the East Africa community. So that shows how solidarity we are. But also there are a lot of issues around the social welfare. We are facing a lot of challenges in different countries. And the EAC is a platform whereby we can share what we face, what are the challenges, and we can also share the best practice. Instead of getting the best practice from the other Western countries, we have our colleagues, our partner in the EAC, who we can still share our best practice and see how these models can be replicated into our own countries. But also, as Mr. David said, I don't want to repeat, even in the fact of good governance, human rights, justice, all this in Article 6, in Article 7, there are a lot that we share. But also, the government at one part, the government also has got an office that takes care of the CSOs. But we do understand we have a specific ministry that works on the EAC. How do they involve us as CSOs at the grassroots level, at the national level? Because there are a lot. And if you go and look into security, peace and security, there is also a framework whereby even the military, police, they share information between themselves. So there are a lot that is happening that we do not know. And this is not only the government job to inform us, but also we ourselves as peers to inform ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman, and for highlighting that. And so before I invite Mr. Sirili, I think one point that is coming from the three discussants so far is the level of awareness. I think we all need to agree that the level of awareness in terms of civil society engagement in the EAC is still very low. And again, I just wanted to articulate to two major examples that I've just seen recently. I'm not to dive into the political discussions, but one of the things I realized, or one of the comments I read on social media when we had the whole situation of the deportation, not even on social media, it was also taken up to the public, where there was a question, why do we have Kenyans coming in to listen to our cases? And clearly it gives you a glimpse that we do not understand about the free movement of people in the region. And this has been also one of the issues have been dangling a lot also in the Regional Dialogue Committee in terms of free movement of persons. We have other partner states. Actually, do you know you can cross across borders with your IDs? How many of you have NIDAs in this room? Wenye NIDA? Hey, Mr. Simon, una NIDA? Okay, David, NIDA is national identification. I know from Kenya you might not have that. You have, okay. So what I'm trying to say is, tumefika mahali ambapo across the region we can actually just move with our IDs and not our passports. Uganda, Rwanda, I think in Kenya, are practicing that one very actively. People do not carry their passports anymore. But unfortunately, it's not the case in all other partner states. We do understand it takes process to grow, it takes time. But I'm just giving you a glimpse of some of the things above vipo, and because we are reluctant, we are not aware of. This also brings me to another comment that I also had, and it was from a very young person. When you're speaking kwenye ile yakati wa hasira na rage, kuna kitu kimoja alikiongea akasema, Nairobi depends everything from Tanzania. Sijui kama hicho kitu mnakijua. Akawa naongea kwamba all the maize, all the potatoes, all the onions going to Kenya are basically from Tanzania. Hilo mnalijua? Vijana mliopo wale wa entrepreneurship, do you understand some of these opportunities that are there across the border? Kwa hiyo mimi kwa kweli niliconclude kwa kusema I think we do not know, labda niseme opportunities tulizonazo as a country. And most of the times maybe tunaweza tukawa tuna struggle internally, employment, or hatuna biashara, but probably kuna masoko nje ya Tanzania na pengine hatuyatumia yanavyotakiwa kutumika. Kwa sababu that guy raised a very strong issue, and I have to be honest, in the EAC, two countries basically right now I know zinalisha the whole of the region, and that is Tanzania and Uganda. Then we have the manufacturers, Kenya, the technological guys, Rwanda. Kuna opportunities nyingi unaweza ukazipata tu across the border, but because we are reluctant na pengine hatuna awareness of some of the things anavyovisema hapa Mr. Simon pia, then it's hard for us to engage. So I just wanted to give that ili mweze kupata an overview and they tell you that we are not much involved in some of these policy mechanisms that are happening in the region. And this goes now to the, I'm going to call Sirili as an outside party, kwa sababu you're still civil society, you're not EAC, you're not, yes, I just brought you here as an observer. You're not a citizen at this juncture. Nimekuleta hapa kama observer kwa sababu wewe ni Mjerumani mweusi. And you have been supporting this process. I know you are new. Last year ulisema wewe ni mgeni. This year you have been here for 1 year. Na tumezunguka across the region. Kwa hiyo najua you have a glimpse of how it looks. From what you have heard from Mr. Simon, Mr. David, and also Suleiman, what is your take as a development partner? What do you think can be done better to ensure that we have active participation of civil society, specifically in this context from Tanzania, engaging in the EAC frameworks? Briefly, utupe comments zako, then we can see how we move it to the floor.
Asante sana. Thank you very much indeed. I just need to make clear that, of course, I'm not like for the development partner, but let me share my perspective from the experience I've had for the last 1 year of working with EACSOF, ELS, and moving around the region. Number one is very interesting to see the levels of diversity in the region. And most interestingly is to see the complementarity. There is a very high level of interdependence within the EAC partner states. And I think that is, it comes with a big package of opportunities and equally with some, I rather say, man-made challenges. Opportunities are more or less natural. And also, what I've learned also is to see the discussions. Last year we had discussions on on the directions which is more, if I use a private sector language, more on complaint side, like to say civil space, etc., etc. But this year I see the discussion is more integrating in the context of how we can be involved as citizens, economic opportunities, etc., etc. So I think I can confidently say we are on the right track, and I also can confidently say that the involvement in the region, especially what EACSOF has been doing, physically visiting all 8 East African states for the last 1 year, conducting SG forum, it's quite, is giving a very serious glimpse of hope and serious prospects. So with this trend, compounded by social media, the youthful population, the current resource which we have, the technology, I believe future is very bright and we are poised to be part of that great equation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sirili. And that wraps up for the panelists right now. I'm trying to also catch up with time. So I take the questions back to the floor. And ningependa kusikia mawazo yenu. What are your thoughts from what has just been presented? I'm more interested in hearing the challenges, the gaps, and that will also shape the direction on what we earn or which we can lead to. Bearing in mind, one of the panelists present here is a very important person kwa sababu atabeba hizi recommendations kama zilivyo kuzipeleka EAC, given the chance that he's the chair right now to convene the annual Secretary General's Forum, that is Mr. David. So I believe this is also going to form part and parcel of the dialogue that we are going to have this year in the Secretary General's Forum. So I think it's important that you also mention some of the gaps that you feel that have not been clearly addressed here, but maybe even if you can give recommendations, what can be done better, I think tunakaribisha. So karibuni kwa maswali, naona tayari naona mikono miwili. Kuna mingine? Watatu. Anyone else? So I see 3 hands, 4, 5 is the maximum. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyone else? Sawa, Santeni, karibu.
Asante Lilian. This one is going to David particularly. I know we have achieved the major 2 things in our EAC. Custom union, common market, but monetary union and political federation is still pending. You have said that citizens are involved. We have the newcomers in EAC. Originally were 3 countries, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And then we brought you Rwanda, Burundi, now Congo, and so forth. But I've never seen consultation from the citizen, because losing your nationality but having the political federation is something very big. I was expecting at least to see these newcomers, like for Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, they have exceptional, because it was like a revival of the existing, which we know the history. But the newcomers, I was expecting at least to have some kind of referendum or consultation of their citizens. Because I've seen these newcomers in the EAC, they are like dragging us back. And I wonder if we'll ever achieve political federation with these unstable states, which are the new members. And they are not even contributing in terms of the budget of the EAC. What the mechanism are you putting in place to make sure that citizens are involved and the newcomers are fully committed to the community? They are benefiting from the community, but they are not responsible to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good one. Karibu.
Thank you very much. So my name is Arafat Lesheve, and I work for Save the Children. I have two questions. One, the question is in terms of the EAC and GIZ. What are the what ways that they do in terms of building capacity for the local youth-led CSOs, mostly youth-led CSOs and women-led CSOs, to really engage and engage on issues of East Africa community programs, policy making, but also integration process, because we all know that the majority of population in East Africa is young people. How are we building the capacity of local-led, youth-led CSOs and women-led CSOs to be better engaged and effective to this process? Second question, also regarding that, with the factor that ESOF, the membership fee is like 100 USD. How does your local youth-led organization be able to manage this fee, regardless of issues of capacity of resources for their own youth-led organization? So I just want to bring this up because also some ways also I'm like a motivator to other, or champion ambassador to other youth-led organizations. The second question is also goes in terms of the like how learning from the EU. Nowadays there is a coming up with the project or like call of proposal that focus of like cross-learning between European youth-led organization and local youth-led organization. Are there a mechanism or vision that we come up with the program that have cross-learning between the East Africa community, between the youth-led CSOs or civil society? Because I believe that some of the other challenges are like they're also the same across the borders, but there is a really need an important role whereby civil society in Tanzania be able to cross-learn to build collaboration with other civil society in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. So I think that's one of my, it can be a recommendation, but also I really wish to better understand on that aspect. And the last but not least, just a posing question. Is there a means of now coming on the East Africa, coming up with the East Africa Forum, SG Forum? How can we also now bring in on board, if in Tanzania we have a representative of the parliament who is representing the civil society in the member, like in the parliament? Is there a way of the future that we are coming up to have a representative who represent in Yala parliament only to represent the civil society organization across different countries in East Africa? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is interesting. I will attempt and answer your questions later, but I like that you've highlighted a number of very interesting issues. Sante, next. Yeah. Karibu.
Niko wapi? Asante sana. Ndugu yangu aliyekuwa wa kwanza karibu amenifilisha, lakini let me put this question this way, kwamba ni taasisi ya kisheria katika Afrika Mashariki, ni kama vile TLS ilivyo Tanzania, lakini kwa maana ya nchi moja. Sasa hizi taasisi za kisheria kwa nchi moja moja katika East Africa zinaonekana kufeli kushawishi wasimamiaji wa haki za binadamu kutekeleza majukumu yao kikamilifu katika nchi zao. Sasa ningependa kujua sasa hii LOS wana meno kiasi gani ya kuweza kusimamia yale masuala ya kisheria na yale masuala mambo yale yanayokiuka haki za binadamu katika East Africa yanafanikiwa, wakati katika nchi moja moja vyombo kama hivi vilishashindwa. Lakini pia tumezungumzia swala la East Africa kama taasisi kubwa inayounganisha nchi zote za Afrika Mashariki, lakini kila kunapokucha kila nchi inakuwa na migogoro yake ya ndani na isiyokwisha na isiyoleta afya. Lakini pia hii jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki na jumuiya zingine zote za Kiafrika, they are there for the rulers, yani ziko pale kwa maana ya viongozi ninavyoiona. Kwa hiyo wananchi hawashiriki kikamilifu na hawashirikishwi wala hawayafahamu masuala hayo kikamilifu. Ndio maana mambo mengi ya wananchi hayapo, na uhusiano kati ya raia wa kawaida na raia wa kawaida wa nchi moja na nchi nyingine ni mdogo. Hawezi kushiriki matukio yanayotokea katika nchi zao kwa uhuru, kama tulivyoona yalivyotokea hivi karibuni kwenye moja ya nchi zetu za Afrika Mashariki. Sasa hamuoni kwamba migogoro hii imeanza sasa kuhama kutoka nchi moja kwenda nchi nyingine, na kile kilichotokea mwaka 1977 kinaweza kikarudi, kwa sababu namba ya wanachama wa Afrika Mashariki inaongezeka, lakini inaongezeka kwa vurugu nyingi zilizopo ndani ya nchi hizo. Kwa hiyo they spend most of time to talk about solutions of internal conflicts. Sasa LOS inafanya nini ili kuhakikisha kwamba migogoro hiyo sasa ya ndani kwa ndani inapatiwa wanasheria au inasuluhishwa kwa namna ambavyo italeta maendeleo yale yaliyokusudiwa? Asante sana.
Thank you. Nashukuru kwa maswali yako. ELS has taken that one down. I'm sure he'll respond to that. Yes, karibu. The last hand.
Asante. Mimi swali langu ni jepesi tu. Unajua wanasema kwamba kuna misinformation, disinformation nyingi, kwa hiyo platform kama hizi saa nyingine zinatusaidia kupata confirmation ya baadhi ya taarifa. Umemention kwamba mojawapo ya faida au taarifa ambayo ni muhimu kuhusiana na East African Community ambayo ngia tuijui ni swala la matumizi ya NIDA, for instance, kuweza kucross hizi East African countries. Kwa hiyo mimi ningependa tu kupata confirmation, kwa sababu nikubali I'm one of those people who was not sure kwamba this thing is actually working. Hii ni kweli tayari ipo kwenye action, like can I cross from Tanzania to Kenya kwa kutumia NIDA yangu? Na ni nchi zipi za East African Community ambayo hii tayari ipo in action? Asante.
Thank you. I think that was the last hand, and yeah, no burning questions. So asanteni, and I think your questions are very vital. Allow me nianze na swali la mwisho. I think this was directed to me when I was giving an example about national IDs. Yes, it's already in process. That is, when you read, is it the Common Customs that gives that is clearly explains or gives a clear overview about free movement of persons in the region. Unfortunately, it's not. Najaribu lugha ni it has not been domesticated with the Tanzanian government. That is, serikali ya Tanzania haijaipitisha bado. Usually it's a matter of consent, it's a matter of domestication, it's a matter of implementation. So one of the things you'll come and learn, and even what they have presented already, yes, there are policies, there are frameworks, but not all East African partner states have implemented these frameworks or implemented these policies that have gone through, and that has been one of the main challenges that we have been facing in the East African community. Hata nadhani swali aliloliuliza the first speaker around the political confederation and even bringing in of people, there's been a lot ambazo naweza ngasema labda zinakuwa swiped under the carpet that go through as at the national levels, but are not implemented at the, they go through at the regional level, but are not being implemented actively at the national levels. So unfortunately for Tanzania, hamwezi kucross border na ID zenu. You'll still have to use your passports to cross the borders in East Africa region. I was giving an examples of countries that have already started implementing, that have domesticated that practice, and that is only Kenya, Uganda and Rwanda. That is, remember tuna nchi 8, kwa hiyo ni nchi 3 tu ambazo zina implement. The rest, it's still a process and we are yet to have that. Okay, so again, let me try and work on the time. And then there was a question again around yes, the experiences. Yes, I liked your questions, Mr. Ashraf. And since you're very, very well informed, I just wanted to ask you maybe another direct questions. Are you aware that we are doing reviews of the East African Youth Policy currently? Perfect. So I just wanted to get that one, and I'm not so sure everyone here is aware. Are we all aware that we are doing reviews of the youth policy in EAC? By show of hands, youth policy in EAC? Gender? Not panelists, sorry, Suleiman. I'm asking the other delegates here. So are we aware that we are doing the review of the East African Youth Policy by show of hands? Are we aware that we are doing a review of the gender bill in EAC by show of hands? Yeah, vitu kama hivyo. So basically, it gives you a clear picture of, first of all, the level of awareness. And as you pose that question, I know GIZ will also respond to that, but I just wanted to get a glimpse of how many of us are aware of the processes that are already ongoing in terms of women and in terms of youth, because I know a lot is happening. It has been a cornerstone of the discussion, and there's been a lot of support going to that direction. Wrapping up. And then I also wanted to also comment on the issue about the IALA, which was another very interesting issue you've brought about. Sasa bila ya wewe and the panelists, let me ask, how many of us know the IALA representatives in the EAC parliament from Tanzania? Wangapi tunawajua wabunge wetu wanaotuwakilisha EAC parliament wa kutoka Tanzania? By show of hands. Jiangalieni wakati mnanyosha hiyo mikono. So it's interesting when you want to ask for a CSO IALA representative, while hata wale ambao waliopo wenyewe hatuwajui. But again, sitaki mjisikie vibaya. This is something we also learned with Cyril. Kuna nchi nyingine hawajui kabisa. Hawajui kwamba hata kuna bunge la IALA ambalo kunatakiwa kuwa kuna wabunge wanaowakilisha. So it's something we are also learning, but I think we also need to see how we do better and best to address this. So I will not take up all of the questions, but your questions are noted, and I think there is much that needs also to be done around that. Nikaribishe panelists to respond to some of the questions you've been given, and clearly it's going to also be a wrap up. So kila mmoja wenu ana 2 minutes. Nianze na Suleiman. Respond to any questions you have in 2 minutes, and then you can wrap up.
Sawa, asante. Naona Lydia ametoka, lakini ameuliza swali zuri. Ni kweli tuna uwezo wa kusafiri na NIDA kwa Kenya na Uganda too, but only on short visits za siku 90. Na huwa wanashauri kwamba ukiwa unatembea na NIDA kuna documents nyingine itabidi uwe nazo kwa ajili ya background check, kwa sababu wanaweza wakakuletea utata kidogo kutokana na uelewa katika mipaka. Kwa hiyo maafisa na wenyewe wanauelewa tofauti kwenye hilo jambo. Lakini swali la Arafat alouliza, ni kweli tuna uwezo wa kupata representative kwenda IALA anayetoka kwenye CSOs. Ukisoma ibara ya 50 inatupa uhuru huo. Lakini sasa ni jukumu letu sisi wanahazaki kufanya advocacy kwa National Assembly, kwa sababu hata wale wanachaguliwa katika process ya vyama, lakini wanakwenda kupitch kwenye National Assembly. National Assembly ndio inawapa uhuru huo wa kuweza kushiriki katika IALA. Kwa hiyo ni muhimu sana tuweze kufanya advocacy ya kutosha tuweze kuhakikisha hilo. Lakini pia uliuliza ni namna gani Yaksof inawashirikisha vijana. Bahati mbaya kwamba taarifa inakuwa ni changamoto, lakini hata wiki iliyopita mimi kuna sehemu nilizungumza wakati wanafanya review ya police. Kwa nadhani hizi zinapoendelea, kuna survey imetumwa kwa kila partner state, tukikutana nayo ijaze, kwa sababu tayari kuna marekebisho mengi yanafanyika, na ukisoma ya zamani na ya sasa hata objectives zimetoka 5 kwenda kwenye 9. Sasa kama tunataka kuishape document iwe nzuri, basi na sisi tutakapokutana na hizi surveys tuweze kuzijaza ili watu waweze kupata taarifa, lakini pia tuweze kuhakikisha mawazo yetu yameingia. Asante.
Karibu, you can give Mr. Cyril.
Asante sana. Nafikiri nimesikia kengele, manake ni either labda unaweza kuwa unatupigia makofi. Okay, na kwa capacity nafikiri Mr. Arafat, very quick one, I can say we are working under EU support to support we are working with the EACSOF to support the capacities of the CSOs, particularly those with an interest in regional integration agenda. And EACSOF are the key contact points for that. Therefore, get in touch with EACSOF, you will get all the relevant information on this very particular area of interest you have asked. And also, on other part of the capacity building you have asked, in line with the CDF, there are lots of ongoing sessions, including this one. And also, I remember last year we had award-winning in support. We supported the youth-led innovations, which we are addressing the regional integration. I remember there were 8 winners from, at least one from every country, who had an award at the SG Forum last year. And also, on the challenge side, very quickly I can say, like, I'm an ordinary citizen, like East African, Tanzanian. It's no doubt that the level of awareness is still very low. 95% or 95% in this room, but out of this room, I believe we still have a very key role to play to make sure that we raise awareness, more particularly on the opportunities and people-to-people relation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cyril. So, before Mr. Chair speaks, I will welcome Mr. Simon from EAC to give us any reflections final in just 1 minute, because again, to make muda umeisha.
Okay, asante. Number one, I'd like to note, as per the last report by, or assessment by African Union on how RECs, or regional economic communities, are performing in Africa, EAC was ranked number 1, and we believe you're still number 1. That was a few years back. And I agree, we are quite well integrated in terms of customs union, also common market. I think very few other RECs are that well integrated. But of course, there are teething problems when we come to other pillars, monetary union, political confederation. I would like to emphasize on the aspect of national consultations that take place. And also that speaks to my colleague here. They are there, whereby we involve all sectors of the economy or the stakeholders, but the challenge mainly is funding, whereby we are not able to include everyone. So perhaps that's one of the areas that we need to, to enhance, especially with the support by CSOs, to create awareness and to involve all the stakeholders when we are doing the policy formulation, or we have, pushing the wheel of integration. The other thing, as we expand, of course, we expect challenges here and there, because we need to take more time to integrate the new members or create awareness within the new partner states who are joining us. So that's a major challenge. So I see most of the other questions were directed to David, and he should be able to address that. But we look forward. A call to action is we enhance the platforms that are there, so that we're able to work together even in all the sectors. Environment is a major area. You talked about youth. Like us, we are directed to come up with a youth program for different sectors. We are working on one for tourism, wildlife, and we need to engage CSOs in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David. I know you had a number of questions, but I will allow them to interact with you during lunch. I am sorry to make this one very brief for you. In like 1 minute, what is the last recommendation you're going to give us? I am sorry, I am being chased out of here, and you're standing between us and lunch. No, not kuangalia, they're all hungry. So we have to get out of here, but in just 1 minute, just give us your reflection as you address some of these questions, but just be very political. Maliza?
Oh my goodness. I'm absolutely sure I will not finish in 1 minute. For that, I want to request, kwa Kiswahili sijui nisemeje, naomba samahani, sababu nitazungumza karibu dakika 2 tu. Okay, let me start from where Simon stopped. On national consultations, you confirm they are there, and the question is funding. And maybe as a takeaway from this event, can CSOs fund themselves to these meetings? Essentially, if it's in Dar es Salaam, can the CSOs in Dar es Salaam take themselves to the venue? I think that can be good to support. The other aspect, which is a big recommendation, is can we ensure the communication reaches the CSOs? Because that is another problem. Most CSOs will never receive an email inviting them to these consultations. Can we get the contacts and Simon to help us make sure next time you are invited to the consultations? NIDA, let me be very clear on NIDA. It's been mentioned. Can we use it to travel? There's something in East Africa that was at some point called the Coalition of the Willing. Because East Africa pushed a policy to allow free movement so that Tanzanians can freely move to Kenya, Uganda, or wherever using their national identity cards. Actually, it was a community policy. But then it faced bottlenecks, and this policy was very difficult to implement because at that point, for instance, Tanzania did not have NIDA. So there were no national IDs in Tanzania at that point. So how will you then move to Kenya with NIDA when you don't have it? So the Coalition of the Willing was Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. In fact, I have a testimony. I have gone to Rwanda with my ID. Basically, my ID contains my biometric data, and the Rwandese authorities are able to scan it, or Ugandan authorities, and get my biodata, just like in my passport. And so I can move with that. So that has happened. Other countries are trying to harmonize. This will make travel very easy. I'm hoping Tanzania comes on board, and of course the others. Let me go to Fulgence Masawe's question on impact of new entrants to the EAC. There's a procedure for admitting a partner state into the EAC. Unfortunately, that procedure does not have that provision for a referendum. I really wish it had, because then it will have made it very easy, or it will have made it a citizen's role to admit a partner state, so that we all go to vote to get admission. So what we have now are requirements, and they are in the treaty, that as long as a partner state fulfills them, one of them just being geographic proximity to the EAC, once you fulfill them, then you get admitted. And the new entrants, DRC, Somalia, have sort of fulfilled them. The human rights and rule of law record is somehow questionable, but if you look at the generality of things, they have fulfilled them, and so they were admitted. Most experts argue that the way they were admitted was hurried, too fast. We didn't take our time to really go into the detail of what they needed to fulfill, especially human rights and rule of law. And you're right when you say this is likely to impact the community. Because then if your human rights and rule of law record is bad, and you are part of a community, wanasema samaki akioza is a small part that starts and it infects the whole body. So we are likely to have problems with the way we admitted them, because then there are requirements that we overlooked in our hurry to bring them on board that will likely mostly affect us. I wanted to read a statistic that you mentioned in terms of the contributions of the partner states. In fact, DRC and Somalia...
You have to wrap up.
Oh my goodness, I'm just wrapping now. South Sudan, for instance, has, out of $7 million, this year contributed 500,000. That is not even a third, it's 0.00 something percent. Somalia has contributed half, 3.5 million. Kenya has contributed 7 million, Tanzania 7 million, Uganda 7 million, Rwanda has contributed 5 million, DR Congo 1 million, Burundi 1.3 million. You can see all the partner states have contributed, and only 3, the original members, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, have fully contributed their dues to the EAC. So what then this does is it places a strain on the operations of the community, because they don't have enough resource to run some of these things, which include organizing meetings with people like CSOs, something that was mentioned by my colleague
Thank you,
Simon.
Chair. Please.
Okay, the last question on the role of lawyers, we'll discuss that outside.
Aya, asante sana.
Thank you.
And facilitator, thank you for bearing with me. It's hard to stop the chairman when he's speaking. But thank you to my able panelists, and thank you for sharing the information. Kindly clap for my panelists, please.
And thank you for a very good moderation.
Asante, asante.
Yeah. So let's give a hand of applause for a very good session from EXOF and GSE. You guys may wish to stand there for a group photo. While they're having a group photo, I will... Yeah, I think it's lunchtime. I don't have to say much, right? We are going to have lunch. Feel free to stand up and make your way to the dining area. Bon appetit. The next session starts at 2:30 in the main hall.